Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, what if the way we all think about normal is just fundamentally wrong? That is the big, provocative question at the very heart of Sonny Jane Wise's book, We're All Neurodiverse. Today, we're going to dig into a huge paradigm shift that could completely change how you see your own mind, and it all starts with a feeling that is, well, way too common.
The author kicks things off with his incredibly raw and honest statement. It's a feeling that, probably resonates with a lot of people, and it gets right to the core of the problem we're going to unpack today.
So why is this feeling so widespread? The book argues that the issue isn't actually with us. It's with the lens we're given to view our own minds through, a lens it calls the pathology paradigm.
Now, think of this as society's default setting. It's this invisible lens that shapes how we judge everything, from mental health to education, and ultimately, how we define our own self-worth.
This paradigm, as the book explains it, is basically a sorting machine. It puts us all in two boxes. You're either normal or you're abnormal. You're right or you're wrong. And it implies that if your mind works differently, it's not just different, it's somehow defective. So what's the main tool used for all this sorting?
The DSM. The book presents this as the official handbook that makes this whole viewpoint legitimate. It's what turns natural human variations into official diagnoses and frames any difference as a kind of disease. And this timeline really drives the author's point home. I mean, just look at the numbers here. From 106 diagnoses back in 1952 to over 300 today. The argument being made is that our definition of what's abnormal has just kept getting wider and wider, pathologizing more and more ways of just being human. But what if there's another way to see it all?
And this is the big turning point in the whole idea. The book offers a completely different framework. It's called the neurodiversity paradigm. To really get it, though, we have to be clear on some of the language it uses.
So first up is neurodiversity itself, and the book is really clear. This isn't a trait that only some people have. It's presented as a biological fact for everyone. It's simply the natural, normal variation of all human minds.
Neurodivergent, then, is just a word to describe anyone whose mind functions in a way that, diverges from what society considers the dominant standard. It's an umbrella term, a descriptor, not a diagnosis.
And neurotypical is the other side of that coin, describing people whose functioning lines up with those norms. Now, the most important takeaway here is that these terms are presented as neutral. There's no good or bad, no right or wrong, just different ways of being.
Okay, so what really happens when you switch from one of these lenses to the other? Well, the implications are absolutely massive. Let's take a look at how this shift really reframes pretty much everything.
This table really nails the difference. I mean, look at the goals. The old way is all about compliance, getting people to fit in. The new way is about fostering autonomy. Or how about self-worth? Instead of your value being tied to how productive you are, the idea is that every single person is inherently worthy, period. This isn't just a tiny tweak in perspective, it's a complete rewrite of the rulebook.
And this new way of seeing things directly challenges what the author calls neuronormativity. It sounds like a complex word, but it's really just the set of invisible, unspoken rules for the right way to think, feel, and behave in our society. These are the rules so many of us are measured against, often without even realizing it.
So for example, take a term like executive dysfunction. Under the old paradigm, that's seen as a personal flaw. But through this new lens, it's reframed as a perfectly logical response to a super rigid set of rules. Rules like, you have to focus for a long time. You have to do things in a straight line. You have to perform on demand. It's argued that these rules just so happen to be perfect for constant productivity. The moment you see them as just rules and not some universal truth, that's when the shame can start to fade.
And that feeling of letting go of shame, it's a really powerful theme in the book. This story from Ren just captures that feeling of relief so perfectly. Going from feeling broken to simply being able to live with yourself as you are.
Yeah, and Dan Casey's experience is so similar. That feeling of freedom from the pressure to conform to what someone else decided productivity should look like. It's a huge weight off. So this all begs the question, right? Where do we go from here? So the final part of the book zooms out. It goes from the individual to the whole of society. It asks, what would a world that was actually designed with neurodiversity in mind,
What would that even look like?
And the book sketches out a roadmap. It's about shifting away from support that's gated behind a diagnosis and towards support that's just based on a person's actual needs. It means using things like universal design, so our schools and our workplaces are built to be accessible from the get-go, not as some kind of special add-on later.
At the end of the day, the goal here is to build a society where difference is the expectation, not the exception. A world where our systems are flexible enough to support the entire, brilliant and diverse spectrum of human minds.
And that brings us right back to the final, powerful question that this entire paradigm shift leaves us with. A question that challenges the very idea of pathology itself. What if normal isn't actually real? And maybe it never was.